Hi, I'm Dennis Capra, my lovely wife Denise, and we're excited to be a part of the World Changers Weekend. We just want to tell you a little bit about us and how we've connected with Jim through the years. We've got D&D Capra Ministries.
Well, before we had D&D Capra Ministries, our church, I would say 3 years after we started our church, we had a divine encounter with Jim's ministry through a recommendation.
You know, and just to back that up, back in about 96, we were just walking through Manitou Springs, Colorado with a pastor friend and Andrew Womack. And I just threw this out there. I said, hey, Andrew, who do you listen to these days? And he went and got out of his truck this series, 16 tapes, so we're talking cassette tape series, Grace, the Power to Change. And he handed those to me, and I started listening to them, and I thought, what is this stuff, man? I mean, I had to listen to each tape about 3 times, and it literally transformed me from the inside out.
One of the key things that was so critical for us at that particular time, we'd started our church in 1994, and we were really getting a lot of good teaching from Andrew's ministry, and then we worked with Dave and Bonnie Duell with Faith Ministries International Network. But Jim's leadership training specifically was like a crossroads for us, because we really were seeking God about, God, how do you develop leaders with the grace message and with this foundation of faith righteousness? So when we heard the tapes, we literally ordered every book at the same time and read it over the next year.
Got to get our fix.
So reading the books, we were just so impacted. And within a year's time or so, we had Jim, we invited him to come to our church. And that was a key thing for us, because his mentoring, his leadership influence, his friendship has meant the world to us, has influenced us more than Jim could ever know. And it was actually, that was a critical thing, because that's what we used with our network to distribute in the nations.
And to train leaders.
Yes.
You know, and I know Jim's probably hearing this and saying, well, tell about yourselves. You know, you're kind of bragging on me. From what we learned, from what we got, this depth of teaching and training we've got it, I've been to 52 nations of the world. So we take this and train leaders.
And I've been to about 40 countries and been doing women's conferences in different places. And we've had pastors and leaders come together with some key contacts that we've had.
So key.
And whether it's been I'm thinking Mexico, Portugal, Brazil, Ecuador, France, England, we could keep going on and on. We're not trying to brag, but I'm just saying, through these contacts God's given us, we have been able to get these training materials into the hands of these leaders that has impacted their churches and their realm of influence. And then we've had some connections where we've had languages, the books translated into other language, in Italian, in Korean.
That was supernatural.
Tell that.
Well, a lot of you know Nate. This guy came to Kansas City he was a dentist, dental surgeon, just showed up to Kansas City, kind of doing a little sabbatical, saw something. Nate was performing at a skate park, and so he went there. He came to our church and liked this message so much. He took my book, he took several of Jim's, and he translated these in Korean. And we've had several teams from our church that have gone back to Korea as a result of that.
So we've got translations in French, Portuguese, Spanish, Burmese,
Italian.
Yeah. And so it's just amazing. So through multiplication of discipleship, not only just the nations and leadership training, but the home group materials Jim has developed through Effective Small Group Ministry. We've used that. We've developed training for that, because that's really a big passion of ours, because that's a key way for churches to disciple people, is through home group ministry that has a goal and a strategy of reaching out, not just a care group, but reaching out, inviting people in, and then Jim helps us with his training about how to process the word that you hear so that you're established.
So we just want to say thank you so much for all that you've done. You know, being able to go to, for example, Tanzania and minister to 500 pastors and leaders. This message that Pastor John said, can you tell us about grace? I mean, what would you do for 3 days? Giving them this. And so we thank you.
And we got to tell about the military transition seminars.
Well, we've got a son-in-law and a daughter, and he was in the military, in the Marines, and he's got a project called the Raider Project, and where he reaches out to Marines, to vets that have gone through a lot of the PTSD, and he's had several. Jim was part of 2 of those seminars they did to bring these guys back to training as far as getting free.
Yeah, and then from the transition seminars, we moved on then to now marriage seminars. So among these vets, we've gotten together with them. Jim has submitted these beautiful training videos, custom personalized, and we've had marriage seminars with the U.S. military veteran. And so it's changing lives over and over and over in many different realms. And so we are so thankful how God is using Jim and changing the world, changing the way the world sees God, and using us the same way.
So we say thank you, Impact. Thank you, World Partners. We just bless you and thank you that we're a part.